So good evening, everybody. My name is Deborah Hernandez, and I'm Director of Continuous Improvement, LCAP. LCAP itself stands for the Local Control and Accountability Plan. Tonight, we're going to follow these guiding questions. First, what is the local control funding formula? What is the local control accountability plan? And how can educational partners become engaged in the process? The LCFF priorities, when we look at the California Department of Education's definition, you'll see here that it is based on the whole child. We look at the blue area, which is conditions of learning, the green area, which is engagement, and the orange or the yellow area for student outcomes. Those are the different areas that we focus in on when we're talking about the local control funding formula. The formula itself was enacted in June 2013, and it was in effect a way to provide more equity in terms of funding, as well as giving districts and charter schools more local control to meet their needs. It was passed in California. This is a California funding formula. It was passed in 2013, and it changed the method of funding from state to local districts. In the past, there was a lot of federal funds that came across, and those funds had to be used in a specific way. What happened with the local control funding formula is it now provided more money to schools with larger numbers of underserved students, such as low income, foster youth, and English learners. So the more students a school district or charter has in those categories, the more funding they would get. And it provided an opportunity for districts to decide how to use those funds. Definitely, this is based on engaging educational partners and community members on how the fund should be used. Again, it's per student. Everybody receives the same funds per student. That's called the base grant. And then there's some grade span adjustments. So depending on what grade level, like kindergarten, first grade, there's a certain funding amount. Second through fourth grade, certain funding amount, so on and so forth as you move up the grade levels. In addition, though, what this does is it provides add-on adjustments based on the number and concentration of those student groups that I shared. High-need students can be determined as those low-income, English learner, foster youth, and data-identified student groups such as African American, Native American, any student group that are underperforming. This is an opportunity to provide extra funding to support those students' needs. What we see in LCAP, many times we see these types of funds being used for district-wide use for all the district, school-wide use, like perhaps on a specific elementary school, and targeted use, for instance, especially focusing in on English learners or foster youth. We see it often used for transportation costs, for adding books to libraries, for counselors, for aides, our student aides, especially for bilingual student aides. Districts can use the funds for professional development. We often see technology purchased with the funds, as well as having more time with students before and after school tutoring and purchasing supplemental instructional materials. So in terms of the local control funding formula, you must create a plan on how you're going to spend those extra monies. And that's the local control and accountability plan. And there are specific requirements. Starting off this year, we're starting a new 3-year cycle. And so we're starting at the very beginning of that. And this LCAP cycle will be a total of 3 years. Within those 3 years, the district or charter school describes the goals, actions, measurements, and expenditures to support those student groups that we spoke about. It provides an opportunity to share how local educational agencies, such as districts and charter schools, are going to address their specific student groups to support them. Each district and charter school creates an LCAP that's based on a template from the California Department of Education. It is required to use the template, and the template has a couple of areas that you should be aware of. First of all, the template that you read through, you'll notice that there are specific prompts and information like questions that the writer or the district is responding to. That is based for the reader. If you continue to look through the LCAP, though, you'll notice that at the very end are the instructions, and the instructions are a very important part of the LCAP. It is the requirements behind each of the sections. And so if you're interested, every time that a LCAP is posted, they must post the instructions as well. So if you're interested, keep reading through the LCAP to the very end and you'll come across the instructions. We think of LCAP development in terms of seasons, right? So there's like the fall season, the winter, the summer, and spring seasons. We think of it in those terms. The fall, like when you're first starting school, is a great opportunity for districts and charter schools to educate the community and their staff about what the LCAP has in it to prepare them to implement the plan. In the winter, it's a great opportunity to start reviewing the information and to start that parent outreach for the new cycle. And then in the springtime, that's when everything gets very busy on sites, because that is when the sites are, or the districts are pulling the data, looking at their actions, and they're looking at how to continue to support parent outreach. And then finally in the summer, that's the opportunity that they must turn in their new LCAP by July 1st, and that's opportunity to get that ready to go. So we're just gonna take a second to look at each of those areas. In terms of the fall, that is really, September, October-ish. Basics is really for parents and community members to know, like, where is the LCAP posted? Your LCAP for your school is posted on their website. It must be posted there. In addition, if you wanted to find it through the San Diego County Office of Education websites, we also must post the LCAP, so it's there. In addition, is opportunity for the district or charter school to meet with the parents to talk about, here's what we have in our LCAP, and then talk about any goals that are created and actions and any progress in those areas. In the wintertime, where we're at right now, is the opportunity for the district and for community members to review the LCAP to determine local priorities and see if they need to be adjusted. Also, there is an opportunity for outreach and parent engagement throughout this whole process. Here's where the district or charter school is sharing the information with the parent advisory committees, the DLACs, the District English Learner Advisory Committee, or the ELACs, and are share the results and letting them know like what's inside the LCAP, so that it's opportunity to provide feedback and experience on how your students are experiencing the school sites and the programs that are put into place. When we come back from winter break and we're moving into the springtime, this is when you're going to start seeing opportunities to come and share your insight with the parent advisory committee. Sometimes they're called like family engagement meetings. They could be called LCAP meetings, but really it's an opportunity for the public and yourself to come together and to share your goals and actions that you'd like to see in the LCAP to support your student. And so it's a great opportunity. Anytime you have an opportunity to participate, we recommend that you do so that you can share your voice and you can share your students' voice on how the plan can meet their needs. There's always going to be a public hearing regarding the LCAP. It's good for you to know when that public hearing is going to be, because that is the public opportunity to share the information before it is adopted by the local governing board. And then again, in the summer, like we said, once the new LCAP is submitted for July 1st, you meet that timeline, then it's time to start meeting with the parents again and to share like what worked well with our plan, what can we do differently. You might get a survey from your school site that shares with you information um, about any engagement that you may have or what we should do for planning for the upcoming year. The LCFF and the LCAP process requires community engagement. It is law. It is in the legislation that you must be a part of this process. Number one, there must be a public review. Like I said, there's a hearing plus a public adoption that are at the board meetings. They must be shared with parent advisory committees. And if a school site has 30 or more English learners, must be shared with the English Learner Advisory Committee as well. In addition, the opportunity is there for the LCAP to be transparent and a way to share information about the plan for our students. I'm going to come back to this graphic again, and this is really where we're going to hone in a little bit on the state priorities. There are a total of 10 state priorities. 2 of them, though, are only for county offices of education. So we're just going to review the 8 that refer to a district or a charter school. Again, there's those 3 areas: the conditions of learning, engagement, and student outcomes. Under conditions of learning, there are basic services. Basic services are an area where we make sure that your students have sufficient curriculum and instructional materials. They have high quality teachers teaching them, and that the facilities that they are in, such as the school and the buildings, are maintained and in good repair. Priority 2 talks about the implementation of state standards, that all students are given a curriculum that meets the requirements of, and priority 7 is that course access. We want to make sure that all students have the opportunity to take all courses that's going to prepare them for college or career. Engagement has to do with both parent and pupil engagement. So parent involvement is a key requirement of the LCAP, of the Local Control and Accountability Plan. It's a key requirement, and they have to make sure that in their LCAP that they're talking about parent involvement in a couple of places. One, there's a section in the LCAP that specifically asks how parents were engaged in this process. Secondly, there has to be a metric that is used to measure parent involvement. Many times our school districts and schools sites will also look at using like survey data to see how parents are involved, the number of parents that come to meetings, and also looking at the parent involvement as a key component of their plan. In terms of parent engagement, this is pupil engagement, I'm sorry, priority 5. This is where our pupils, we look at, are our pupils engaged? And it's measured a couple of ways. One, it's measured through attendance rates. Secondly, it's also through graduation rates, chronic absenteeism rates. Those are all important indicators that it's to look at pupil engagement. Are they engaged in the school? Priority 6 talks about the school climate, and a very important part of this is a survey that goes out to parents, staff, and students about school safety and a sense of being connected to the school site. So those are all engagement priorities, and there's metrics that are aligned to those. And then finally, there's student outcomes. So the priority 4 is pupil outcomes. This has to do with English language arts, mathematics, English language advancement. We want to make sure that English learners are advancing, so they're taking the LPAC test. And so we want to make sure that we're keeping our eyes on pupil achievement. And then priority 8 is really the district or charter school's opportunity to share other pupil outcomes, such as physical education. It could be social science. It could be visual and performing arts. The district or charter really determines which one they want to use, but they have to have a metric and a measurement on other pupil outcomes as well. So I know that's a lot of information, but basically the the way we look at it is every one of our districts and charter schools receives funding for their pupils, for their low income, foster youth, and English learners. Because they're receiving that money, they must create that plan. And that plan has very specific requirements. And one of the biggest that we want you to know about is parent involvement and engagement. It's so important for you to be a part of the conversation and process. I'm going to share a little bit now about the Equity Blueprint for Action that we have at the San Diego County Office of Education. And then at the very end, there'll be some ways for you to be involved as well. So the County Office of Education created the Equity Blueprint for Action, and it is a way to think about how we can provide equitable outcomes specifically and especially for African American students, American Indian students, and Latinx students. And it is based on community and research informed practices. What I want to share with you is something that we're really looking at in terms of supporting community members and families like yourself, as well as students. Number one is that it really is based on the understanding that we should have asset-based systems where educators model and intentionally focus on their mindsets about their students, and they really look at the strength and the beauty in what students bring, such as their languages and their cultures, and celebrate those strengths and gifts and talents that they bring to the classroom and school site and the district. It's a way that we need to think about what our students are bringing to the classroom every day. In addition, a very strong theme that is in the Blueprint for Action is family and community engagement and advocacy. We know that students thrive when their families and community members are involved and participate and contribute to students' learning. When students have that positive role model who promote their success, they feel more confident, and we know that they improve academically. So it really goes hand in hand in student success is having the family and community involved in the education of their students and children. So I just want to take a second to talk about asset-based systems and what you should look for on school sites, either if you're in the district or in the charter. Number one, you want to look for an inclusive school environment that supports all students, especially those students who have been historically marginalized or students maybe that don't feel comfortable in school or their families may not be comfortable in school. You want to look for inclusive school environments in your school site. We want to look for building a cradle to career educational program. So we want to see an alignment from preschool all the way through college or career. We want to see that alignment. We want to increase that positive representation of students and staff on sites. We want to look for and offer and provide support for all students to receive and to engage in rigorous coursework that's going to prepare them for college and career. And we also want to look for a school site or a system that shares power intentionally with parents and community, especially in decision making. The local control and accountability plan provides you the opportunity to share your voice and to share the power with parents and communities. We're looking at the type of language that we see in LCAPs and that we hear when we're talking with adults. First, we want to look at using the assets-based lens and language, especially when we're focusing in on emphasizing the capabilities and aspirations of our students. We are looking for our districts and charter schools to shift their language. We want them to use words such as resilient, at potential, at promise, strong, determined, ambitious, hardworking, committed, motivated, vibrant, and inspired. We want to hear our teachers, principals, and school sites, and we want to see it in the LCAP. We want to see this strong, positive, strengths-based language. We want to to avoid descriptors like underprivileged, urban, at risk, troubled. I mean, I would not ever want to see anything like ghetto or gang affected, dangerous or vulnerable. Especially, we may not see it in a written document, but we don't want to hear that either. We don't want to hear that on campus. We don't want to hear teachers or other people using that type of language to describe our brilliant students. In terms of family and community voice, schools and charter schools must recognize and respect the diversity and the responsibilities of different families and cultures. They need to provide safe spaces for listening, healing, and relationship building, especially for adults and families who might feel like they're misunderstood or have had negative experiences with American institutions. You have to recognize that American institutions are very different than what may be in another city, state, county, or internationally, right? So we have to recognize that. And we know that students thrive when those family members are a part of the process. So I'd like to just take a minute to talk about parents' voice and to encourage you to use your voice. There's a lot of ways that school sites can and districts can engage educational partners. One way is called the World Cafe, and you may have been a part of this before. A World Cafe is where you come in, you share information, and there might be posters across in a large room, and you're able to go and interact with information on the poster and share your feedback, share your insights, and hear and learn from each other. Another way that you could be involved is through a focus group. Focus group is where a school site or a district may ask parents or students to come and share their perspectives. It's usually pretty structured where you would have a panel, maybe of 5 students or 5 parents, and you ask specific questions such as, how are you experiencing school? Do you like coming to school? Do you feel like you belong? Do you have a favorite teacher? Who's your favorite teacher and why? Those kind of questions, so you're really able to gather data and share your perspective. One-on-one conversations, sometimes you might hear it, there's a new term that's been going around that is called empathy interviews. And these are one-on-one conversations where you can sit down and share your perspective. And they have some questions, like it could be for a parent, like, do you feel welcome at the school site? Right? Or do you, how does your child interact with the teacher, or do they feel comfortable with students, what have you? But it's a one-on-one opportunity where we can share your perspective on some questions. There's advisory committees, and we encourage you to be a part of any advisory committee that you can, such as school site council, English language advisory committees, as well as district English language advisory committees, and there's a lot more. There's the PTA or PTO, any kind of advisory committee that you can be a part of. We encourage you to do so, even if you can't do it for a long period of time. It's good to have your perspective. And then the last example we have here is through surveys. A survey is a way that a district or school site can get your perspective, and they can ask you, and it's usually a pretty efficient way for, number one, for you to give information. Like sometimes it's like a scale of 1 to 5, or or rate these. What's the top selection for you? It's usually easy for you. You could do it on your phone, usually. And it's a real easy way for a district or school site to get information, right? It comes in pretty quickly, and they're able to go through it. And usually that data can be put together pretty quickly into something that's visually easy to interpret, like bar graphs or percentages, like 98% of the parents feel this way, or 5% of the students feel this way. So that survey could be pretty efficient. What we recommend and we hope at the county is that a school site or district uses a lot of different types of way to engage educational partners, right? Not just one method, but let's do a couple of methods so that we can really get the bulk of parents and community members into our school sites and districts and hear their perspective. So this is the part that I promised you, and this is towards the end of the information I'll share today. Then we'll open it up for some questions and answers. Here's my charge to you, and my challenge is to go locate your district's LCAP. There's a link in here that I'm sure Lachey will share, and it takes you to our website at the county office, and you can scroll down, find your school district or find your charter school, tap on it, and it'll give you the LCAP. The LCAP that's posted right now is for the 23-24 school year. So it's the one they're in right now. So it's the most current. And I really would like to challenge you to do that. Also, if you are able to join a school site council or any of those other committees, please do so. That's really a great way to get your voice out there. I understand being a parent and now being a grandparent, a working grandparent, that's really difficult for me to be on one of those committees. And I try to be involved other ways, right? If there's another opportunity, then I really try to do that. Monitor and attend school board meetings. It might sound like, no, that's horrible. That's too boring. I don't want to go to that. I always like to go. When I was at the district level, I always went, and I monitor and actually tune in for the county office of ed board meetings. That is where you're going to hear the most up-to-date information. If you can't go to all of them, go to the one for the LCAP, right? You know it's going to be in May or June, right? Go to that one, because then you can hear firsthand everything that's happening in the LCAP, and then you can see the board adopt the LCAP. That's always exciting. We always recommend that you establish relationships with school board members, key staff, and community members. It's okay for you to talk to a school board member. If you have something you'd like to share, it's okay to do that. Look for key staff members that, of course, the principal, assistant principal, even people in the office are great to provide support and to give you direction on who to talk to, like if you want to. There's always some key staff members. And when I was on site as a principal or as a teacher, there were those great office staff members that could connect you to anything that you wanted. They're amazing. And then finally, the one recommendation we have is to know those 8 state priorities and how it impacts your child. For instance, the academic achievement priority 4, knowing, how your student is doing on the CASP or the SBAC test, knowing where that places them, knowing like in the LCAP, what goals they have, especially if your child's English learner, low income, or foster youth. You can look there and say, like, what kind of goals do they have? Does it align to my students' needs? And who should I talk to about it? So I know there's a lot of information, so I'm just going to open it up right now for questions. And we're very intimate, so I'm more than happy to have you just open up your mic and ask a question.
Okay. It looked like there is a message in the chat. Where might I find a recording of the first meeting? Okay, of this series, and how about copies of the PowerPoints from that meeting and this one? So just to let you know, Matt, I can email you the actual recording and the slide deck from the first one, and then of course after this will also be formatted through our communications team as well. So, but currently the links to the previous one is located on the SDCOE website under family and community engagement. So there is an actual section for the My Voice Count series. Okay. But your hand is raised, Matt, but you can go ahead and ask another question as well.
Hi, I'm a parent at one of the charter schools in San Diego. I'm actually on the school site council, and we're hopefully in January going to get started contributing to the LCAP process. I was hoping that Deborah, maybe you could give us an idea of how that normally goes in terms of parents, like what our expectations should be. thus far, my experience has been that the LCAP is written without intentional input per se from parents, perhaps with the exception of a survey. And then there's a meeting, which most people don't show up for, and then it's done in public. But in terms of the writing of the LCAP or providing meaningful feedback, our site hopefully will have the opportunity to have parents involved with that. What should our expectations be? How can you give us like a example of that?
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. And thanks for sharing your question. It's actually a common question that we get. In terms of LCAP requirements, there's requirement that there are very specific educational partners that are involved, right? So you need to have parents involved. Now, this year, we're starting with having a student, if you're up to middle school and above, you know, if you include that, you need to have middle school students involved as well, or high school students involved in the process, teachers, administrators. So the requirements are very specific on who is involved. There's a very specific section of the LCAP that talks about how educational partners were engaged. Now, you probably are aware, or you will be aware really soon, that we have a brand new template, right? And the template does look different in the educational partners section, but I think, in my opinion, is a great upgrade because it asks very specific questions like who is involved, how are they involved, how would you measure, you know, success or impact. So it provides an opportunity to go a little more in depth. What we've seen in the past in that section many times would be just a bulleted list of dates of meetings, right? So January 11th, February 13th, like, and there wasn't an opportunity of like describing everything that happened and how educational partners were involved. The best case scenario is that there's multiple ways that districts and charter schools engage educational partners. And not just through a survey, but at a minimum, a survey does meet that requirement. So my recommendation always is to continue to talk with your principal and talk with, especially because you're on school site council, on how are we engaging parents in this process and how are they a part of the decision making. That's always a great way to get insight onto how parents are involved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see that we have on the line our executive director for Whole Child and Community Design, and she is leading the work pertaining to community schools and also the community engagement initiatives. Some of our charter schools and also districts have been awarded the grant for both of those, and those things also tie into making sure that we have alignment with our LCAP. And it's also trying to make sure that we are aligned with our blueprint for action as well. Louisa, if you are still here, if you could please be so kind as to kind of just share a little insight to these parents in regards to those two activities. I mean, in regards to those two grants and what they should expect, provided they are at a school site that is a part of CEI and community schools, because it all ties together with the advisories and of course the LCAP and work. That's if you don't mind.
Yeah. So when it comes to the community engagement initiative, there's only currently one district who's participating, and that's El Cajon. So, in San Diego. So that's a community engagement initiative district, and they're doing a lot of work and really making sure that they have a robust strategy when it comes to family and community engagement. They're actually seen as like a model for California. So if your school does fall under El Cajon, feel free to inquire about it and ask them about how that specific grant is being implemented. There will be another round of applications for a special cohort for community engagement initiative, and that's going to be released probably mid-January. We can share information, but I think it's just good for schools to know when a lot of these grant opportunities come up, so that like families and students can benefit from them. So the next round of community engagement initiative would be available mid-January, I think by January 25th. Another opportunity for schools is the California Community Schools Partnership Program. So that's a specific grant opportunity that's currently active right now. The application is due February 9th. That's through the California Department of Education, and it's really supporting a lot of our schools and expanding the community school initiative across the whole state. So there were two grants that were aligned to that specific program, the planning grant and an implementation grant. I would highly recommend for you to figure out if your school is a community school. And if so, each community school is expected to actually have an advisory council that have parents as members, and a community school coordinator who's really helping build that collaborative leadership with the school, and also integrated student support. So I think that's what I want to share about community schools. It's an amazing opportunity. Cohort 3 is the Cohort 3 application is happening right now. It's active right now, and it's a good opportunity for schools to add additional resources to support students and families.
Thank you so much, Louisa. Matt, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I wanted to ask about the Parent Advisory Committee. So we have a DLAC, we have an SSC, but we don't have a Parent Advisory Committee per se. And so trying to figure out what that would look like in terms of, would that require that there be a group of at minimum 3 family members, 1 English language learner, 1 low income, and 1 for foster youth? And if you had a committee of those, from the 1 person from each of those 3, does that make a pack, which would then fulfill the requirement for an LCAP?
So in terms of a parent advisory committee, a school site, a district or a charter school can determine that group. Ideally, yes, you would have representatives from all 3 areas. If you have like over 30 English learners, you'd want to have English learners on there. So they can use already different councils that are in place already to meet that need, right? But ideally, you would have someone that represents each of those areas. And we always think about too, that how do we get parents and families at the margins, like the ones that maybe are not engaged in school, and in people that, that maybe we want to learn more about, so that we can make sure that this LCAP is really representing all students. So yeah, it being very intentional with who you invite is important. So again, I think that's a great opportunity to share with school site council, share with your principal about how and who's a part of our parent advisory committee. That's a fair question, right? Who's a part of that, and how do we get more people involved?
So really, there's a lot of freedom with the charter per se to decide how they want to do it.
Yes, there is. Yeah, there's freedom for school districts as well, not just charters.
And I just wanted to point out that there are some schools that actually do not have an actual PTA and or an actual PTO. However, there could be another neighboring school that is there that actually has a PTA and a PTO that you guys can actually come together, with. So that way you guys can start to review LCAPs in that type of fashion, and actually build some type of overall community involvement in that aspect. Because even though the school could be five blocks from each other, you are still serving the same population, So even if your school site does not have a PTA or a PTO, you can work with another school site as well that actually have one of those, and then just try to build upon that, so that way you guys can try to work together collectively for the good of your overall community.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Do we have any other questions for myself, Lachey? Oh, hi, Edward. Hi.
Hi, I first of all, I wanted to apologize for coming in so late. I had just gotten home, so I wanted to join this. My program, Education Begins in the Home, is a community program where I provide free books to the families and students of North County, San Diego. So since May of 2015, I've provided close to 250,000 books to the families from Oceanside to Valley Center, and in almost 1,000 events. I am also a part of one of 34 affiliates associated with the San Diego Council on Literacy. So I'm interested in finding out anything that's going on in our education world, because obviously I'm very concerned about the reading levels of our school students, especially the statistic that talks about the reading level of our third graders. I was also a part of the Oceanside Promise Group, which was on the early childhood education level. So I just kind of wanted to talk about why I'm here and my interest and my involvement in the community. And I have been invited to participate in several Max Head Start programs, and I always talk to parents about the importance of them participating in their child's school events, because that just reinforces for the kids that it's very important for them to do well in school. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Edward, if you don't mind putting your information inside the chat, so that way, should there be any other parents who would like to connect with you in regards to the work you're doing, I would really appreciate that. As a matter of fact, if there's anyone else here who was doing some different type of community work or would like to connect with other parents in regards to positives and negatives, please feel free to share the information so we can all try to connect and move forward from there. Okay.
I think there's a question, Lachey, about from Vanessa. How can a parent help start a PTA? Not sure if that was answered already.
I have to go back. So we actually have a couple of them that are here. Thank you, Louisa. So how can a parent help start a PTA at our school? Deborah, you want to take it, or you want me to take it? I don't.
No, please.
Okay. So pretty much, so you have your ninth council district, so PTA, and that's located on SDCOE's main campus. The only thing you need to do was just really first off have a conversation with that particular school site to make sure that they are going to be supportive of you bringing on an actual PTA. Then once that's done, you will contact the actual PTA district site within itself and find out who that rep would be for that particular region. And then from there, you would follow the various protocols to which they have already set in place in regards to how to officially start it. So when I started the PTA at Johnson Elementary School, this was probably now 13, 14 years ago. I had to go through that process. I had to speak to the leadership. From that leadership, I went over to the PTA council. From the PTA council, they let me know the process, and so we had to, myself and that principal, and we had to send out flyers to the school sites and ask them, parents to come in to meet us and to join and do various types of meet and greets to try to gain enough members. You have to have a certain amount of members so you can officially be active as a PTA. But the ninth district will, a PTA, or even just contacting the main PTA, they'll be able to tell you the actual protocol as far as the numbers you need to officially start. But you have to first get buy-in from your campus.
Thank you. And sorry, is there any specifications as far as like early childhood? Sorry, I'm kind of asking about the Early Childhood Education Center for Lemon Grove. The new Palm location is just, everything's really new. So I guess I had talked to the director there, and she was trying to start the PTA earlier this year, had contacted the district PTA,
Okay.
and was told that someone from there had to come and help start it because everything was new at this location, and the early childhood education center is everything's new. And I just wanted to know, I guess, is there a specific timeline that they have, since it's already December and this was started in, the fall? We're kind of midway here. Should I, as a parent, then follow up and say, hey, this is something that we want? I have fellow parents that want to do it as well, or
Yes, so what you would do is, so you can still follow up, but typically it's always good to try to officially kick off all your PTAs during the fall. So whatever planning you're going to be doing, you want to do that over the, obviously the course, the spring and then the summer, and then in the fall you'll start to implement different things, so that way you can be aligned with your official academic year. So if your PTA hasn't started just yet, keep in mind now we're going into our spring semester. And so what you want to do now is just to still do that follow-up to find out, hey, have paperwork been started? Because you have to have the actual paperwork, as well as far as like your 501c status and all those things have to be done. So you would definitely want to follow up with that. And then once that's done, start the planning process beginning January, February, so that way when your academic year officially starts, July 1, then you'll be able to start planning certain things to implement once your official school year starts.
perfect. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, Louisa answered the question for Patricia. Thank you. Thank you, Matt, for your email. Thank you, Edward. Okay, community schools information and PTA. The information was also pasted inside the chat. Do we have any other questions that we can possibly answer? Okay. All right, we have 2 minutes remaining, and I just want to say thank you guys for taking the time to join us this evening. I do hope that the information that Deborah shared gives you a little bit more insight in regards to just how valuable your overall voice is as it comes to LCAP and LCFF. The main purpose of this is to make sure that you as parents and also as community members understand your overall agency and just how important you are to all of our processes. And so you do have a voice throughout this entire journey. Do not let anyone else quiet that voice, because keep in mind, we are all educators. And of course, you're working with people who are having huge impacts on your child's life. And so it's extremely important that we make sure that we have enough funding coming into our schools, and that we have enough programs and services that are going to be truly accommodating to all of our family needs. So this work is not just about the individual child, it is about the whole child, meaning you as the family as well. So our goal is to make sure that you guys can all have quality of life, and make sure that you and your family is going to be able to achieve at the highest academic level possible. So if you don't have any other questions, once again, I'd like to thank you for joining us this evening. Our third session is scheduled for February 8th, which will be highlighting CalKids. The CalKids program is a financial program that is geared towards college readiness, and that's extremely important as California has kicked this off this past year. And so you will have the opportunity to apply for the shared plan and ensure that you have money set aside for your child's college career. And so we're starting out from birth actually going up to the age of 24, depending on certain eligibility requirements. So hopefully you'll be able to join us on February 8th with our State Department talking about CalKids and how you and your family or someone else could actually qualify for this free money. Keyword is free money from the state of California in regards to your college career. Once again, thank you for your time, and please enjoy the rest of your evening.